ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतङ्गमय। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। Let us offer our salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, who harmonized all the religions of the world. Let us pray to him to lead us from unreal to the real, from darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, from death to immortality. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Today's topic is the uniqueness of Vibhishana's episode in the Ramayana. Ramayana is a great epic, and the hero of that most famous epic is Lord Ramachandra, in whose name we do Ram Nam very frequently every month. Who is Ramachandra? He is none other than the divine being who incarnates as and when necessary, when it is becoming increasingly difficult for people to live, when the force of evil is too much for the sustenance of the world, then tadatmanam sujamyaham, Bhagavan says in the Gita. When the crisis comes, the Lord comes there to redeem the people. But Lord waits for a long time. He gives us many chances to improve upon, to correct our mistakes, and to find out our own ways. But then, when an impossible situation comes, when it would be no more possible for people to fight the evil, then the Lord Himself descends on this earth. It is just a play of the Lord. The whole world is nothing but a drama in the sense of the Vedanta. What is this after all? Life. Morning to night we are busy, eating, drinking, making money, making properties. Then one fine day, giving up the body. So what is there in this sort of life? What is it worthwhile? But that we have to find out. That is hidden. It is not easily recognizable by the ordinary people who are always enamored by the glamorous attractions of the things of the world. It is not recognizable by such people. But then situations come when they would be able to think about that there must be something in this life. They want to have the experience of real peace. Then they probe the matter and they seek the help of the divine. Of course, the divine help is always there. He is always there. It is only for us to desire for divine help. If we desire, the help will come. If we don't want, God will not disturb us. If we don't believe in God, He is not bothered about our belief. All right, you carry on your life without believing in the divine. Wonderful, carry on. Then you will see one day that you can't boast of your assertion. You have to bend your head. You have to get rid of ego, which is the cause of all suffering, cause of all troubles. Anyway, so Ramayana has a great lesson for people who want to learn. It is the life story of Sri Ramachandra himself, who is none other than the divine supreme being, as I had already hinted. He incarnated himself as a human being for the purpose of establishment of eternal dharma on this earth. In fact, he came to validate the teachings of Vedas to be truthful. Satyam vada dharmanchara swadhyaya pravachanabhyam na pramaditauvyam acharya devo bhava madru devo bhava pitru devo bhava. Speak always the truth. Follow the righteousness. Consider father and mother as veritable gods. These are the underlying principles of religion expounded by the Vedas. If we follow these teachings in our daily life, it leads us to spiritual unfoldment. It develops, it flowers our spiritual personality. The Ramayana is verily expounding the truths of the Vedas. This great work is expounding the supreme truth that the liberation could be obtained by total and unreserved surrender unto the divine. Complete surrender. But there should not be any hypocrisy, saying outwardly that I have surrendered myself at your feet, O Lord, but behaving in a different way, that will not do. Throughout the composition, a number of instances are mentioned to illustrate this truth. The whole Ramayana is nothing but the teaching of the Sharanagati. Coming to the point, in Yuddha Kanda, we come across the case of Vibhishana, who was also one of the demons, Rakshasas, who were tormenting the people to a great extent. Not only people, they were tormenting even the saints and sages doing tapas in the forests. Vibhishana, though he was one of the Rakshasas, he behaved in a different way. He rushes to Rama and surrenders himself unto him after he was driven out by his brother Ravana, the tyrant, who would not listen to the words of advice from Vibhishana. Thus it appears the theme of Ramayana is verily Sharanagati, and that various incidents are meant for expounding this truth. The episode of Vibhishana taking refuge with the Lord Sri Ramachandra is like an Upanishad to Sharanagati Veda. This reveals the fact that Sri Rama is a universal savior. Whoever it may be, if the person surrenders to the Lord, there is always hope for the survival. The personality of Vibhishana is outstanding in the Ramayana. He is always referred to as Dharmatma, virtuous among the Rakshasas. He is an illustrious example to show that the practice of dharma is possible for one even when one is placed in an atmosphere quite opposed to it. There is no wonder when one follows the path of dharma being in close association with the virtuous. But such people are rare who, though in the midst of an alien atmosphere, ever follow the path of dharma and sacrifice everything for the sake of it. It would have been a great wonder if Lakshmana and Bharata, being the sons of Dasharatha and trained by the sage Vasishtha, had not followed the dharma of following their elder brother. But the case of Vibhishana is a counter experience. Born in the midst of Rakshasas, while being closely associated with his brother Ravana and Kumbhakarna, the most powerful demons of the age, Vibhishana never lost his sattvic courage and high principle of dharma. This is indeed a marvel. Even from his birth, Vibhishana was a sattvic person devoted to the cultivation of dharma. He always liked it. If Ravana and Kumbhakarna were a menace to the world, Vibhishana was quite the contrary. He was ever established in dharma. He was always engaging himself in studies. He was strict in his food habits, not eating too much or drinking too much to lose himself. He was moderate in eating and drinking, and even in enjoyment. So much so, he gained control over his indriyas. He had established mastership over the organs, which generally give trouble to the people who let loose them and afterwards trying to control them, which would be too late. Vibhishana and his brother Ravana and Kumbhakarna, all these brothers, they did penances to propitiate gods and procure various types of boons. That was the age of tapas. People could live long years and they could meditate upon. The world was shuddering with fear when Ravana and Kumbhakarna became very powerful because of some special boons they received by Lord Brahma, the Creator. What did Vibhishana ask for? He also did tapas. What did he ask for? He didn't ask for any power or any position, any wealth. He asked, "O Lord, may my mind always tend towards dharma, even in adversity." Very important. May I protect dharma always in all situations and stations of my life. O Lord, this I consider as a great boon. There is nothing unattainable by a follower of dharma. If one follows dharma, principles in life, it naturally leads him towards the ultimate goal of blessedness. A person may think of following dharma when he is in prosperity. But when one is in adversity, and when one, for one's very existence itself, there is a great danger, dharma may not become palatable. It's a moral crisis, and to follow dharma at such a time is a significant achievement. Vibhishana, he did not pray for any extra strength. He did not pray for granting immortality. But he prayed for a firm and dedicated way of life devoted to dharma. The Divine Lord, the Creator, was so pleased with this request that he showered on him his choicest gifts, even unasked. He said that he would give him amaratva, immortality also, even though he had not asked for it. Why? Because he was very much pleased by his steadfastness in religion, in dharma. Such is the uniqueness of Vibhishana's character. Though he was born among the Rakshasas, he did not behave in a Rakshas way, but he maintained his own grit. That's very important. It is Vibhishana's endeavor to guide his brother as well as others to proceed on the path of dharma whenever there was a need for it. Of course, you must have read the Ramayana in full. I am just referring only to the incidents to pinpoint wherever necessary. When Ravana ordered in a fit of anger that Hanuman, who had come there as the messenger of Rama, should be put to death, it is Vibhishana who stopped it. He intervened and said and argued and convinced Ravana of the fact that a messenger should not be killed. Vibhishana was an adept in politics and argued convincingly that if that Hanuman was put to death, there would not come an opportunity for them to fight and defeat their adversaries who sent him as their messenger to them. Ravana listened to his advice and appreciated it. Hanuman was observing the behavior of Ravana, Vibhishana and others, and he praised Vibhishana as Mahamatihi when he spoke of him to his comrades. Man of great wisdom. Hanuman set Lanka ablaze with the very fire that was lit on his tail and returned unharmed. All the Asuras were stupefied at this unprecedented event. How a monkey could cause so much devastating fire. Ravana summoned his council of ministers for a discussion, and Vibhishana also was there. His was a lone voice against the shouts of those warlords. Everyone there was infatuated with power and fury, and everyone shouted that he alone would exterminate the enemies of such misbehavior as done by Hanuman. Each one is able to kill Rama, Sugriva, anybody for that matter. When they were all boasting about their strength, Vibhishana alone was calm and collected. He quietened those agitated and impatient warmongers and appealed to Ravana in a dispassionate manner, analyzing all the issues. He was not mindful of the numbers that opposed him. He thought it was duty to give the right advice at the right time. He was duty bound. He was endowed with that presence of mind and indomitable courage that is very special in Vibhishana. His argument was logical and cogent. It is improper to resort to war before trying other means of conciliation and others. Going to war is a last resort. That was the first point. Secondly, in the case of Rama, even waging war with him may not be effective because his valor and strength are unlimited. One should not wage war with another who is superior in might. Vibhishana alone could recognize the superior strength of Sri Ramachandra. But all the other Rakshasas, they were all mad after their own power, and they thought they could annihilate anybody on the earth. Of course, Ravana had defeated even the gods in heaven because of so many boons he had. Nobody could challenge him. Thirdly, to argue that Rama is to be punished for killing Khara, a demon in Dandakaranya, and other demons is also not sound. Sri Ramachandra had to do so in self-defense, and Khara alone is to be blamed here for having attacked Rama, being guided by the words of Shurpanaka. That's a famous episode we can read in the Ramayana, very interesting. Fourthly, Ravana alone is the root cause of all this trouble. Why? He has put the Rakshasas into danger by abducting another's wife. The only way of getting out of this danger is to return Janaki to Ramachandra. So Vibhishana was telling again and again, I appeal to you as a near relative, please do give away Sita to Ramachandra. Vibhishana did not mince matters, but was very clear in his advice. He asked Ravana to give up anger and to follow dharma. He would say, you are the ruler of this kingdom. You must be model to the people. If you are not following dharma, then how can you expect people to behave? The powerful trend of argument that Vibhishana followed had its effect even on Ravana, and he dissolved the meeting that day without taking any decision. Valmiki, the author of Ramayana, points out that Vibhishana was not lacking in courage or valor, and he was committed to dharma. It should not be thought at any moment that Vibhishana was a weakling. He had great affection towards Ravana, his brother, and was an ardent well-wisher of his. He spoke very clearly what was good for him and what was good for the people at large. He had the courage to speak out the truth, though it was not relished by others. Valmiki remarks that the advice of Vibhishana was for the good of Ravana. It was very significant. It was quite reasonable and would stand the test of all times. Ravana held a second meeting of his council of advisers and asked them to suggest a way to deal with the enemies without returning Janaki. Vibhishana could not be silenced by such a conditional and committed request, and he boldly and frankly spoke what was right in a dispassionate manner. It was certainly not palatable to Ravana and his followers, as they were blind to facts on account of their minds being deluded by passion and power. Ravana spoke very harsh words and very unkind words to that virtuous Vibhishana, who had uttered well-reasoned words wishing for Ravana's ultimate good. Ravana was in the hold of death, and he was not capable of thinking what was good or what not good for him. He made very serious accusations and called Vibhishana wicked and jealous. He said, it was not worthy of a brother to speak thus. So he never liked to see even the face of Vibhishana any longer. So he dismissed him from his fold, saying that if any other person had spoken so, he would not be living at that moment. Vibhishana was virtually driven out by his own brother for speaking out what was just and good for Ravana and the Rakshasa race and the whole of Lanka. Valmiki describes Vibhishana by calling him a Nyayavadi and expresses his dismay at such a treatment given to him for those just words by his brother. Being thus discarded by his brother, Vibhishana had no place in Lanka. He had to go away. He did not desert Ravana, but in fact he was disowned and driven out by Ravana himself. This fact we should always try to remember when we study the character of Vibhishana. Vibhishana was deeply grieved by those harsh and unkind words of Ravana, and he could not stay any longer there. Even while leaving from there, he gave a bit of good advice to his brother. O king, you are my elder brother. Say whatever you like. You are like a father to me, being my esteemed elder brother. But you are not on the path of dharma. You are committing a great blunder in the life. A great blunder that would annihilate the whole Rakshasa race if not mended at the proper time. I cannot forgive you for these false words of accusation. People who are uncultivated and in the grip of death do not listen to the good words said by a well-wisher. O king, it is easy to find people who always speak pleasingly, but it is difficult to find one who speaks words which are for one's good, though unpleasant to hear. Much more difficult is to find one who listens to such words. So saying these words, Vibhishana departed from Ravana. He had in full the brotherly affection towards Ravana and was said to leave him. After giving this advice, he felt very sad to part his company. There would be no one thereafter to advise Ravana and guide him on the right lines, as Vibhishana was the lone person to do so. Everybody else was afraid of Ravana to speak in front of him. Well, he wished Ravana well and left him. Save yourself and this city of Lanka along with demons with all efforts. May you be happy without me. Having advised him, Vibhishana decided the next course of action, and he hurried to the presence of Rama to surrender unto him. You must know Vibhishana was a great devotee, a bhakta, who had given his heart and soul to Sri Ramachandra. A question arises whether it was right for Vibhishana to join Rama by forsaking his own brother at a time of crisis. He could have abandoned his brother, but could he join hands with the enemy of Ravana and desire for the kingdom of Lanka? Was it right for him to divulge the secrets of his own fold to Rama? These are relevant questions, and we have to analyze the issues from 2 points of view, namely from the worldly point of view and the point of view of supreme dharma. Vibhishana's behavior is to be judged from both these points of view. Vibhishana never parted from the path of dharma and truth, and he had that courage to speak to the face of Ravana that dharma alone had to be followed. Ravana was not in a mood to listen to this valuable advice. He was always moved by his passion and anger. So he called the assembly and he decided to dismiss Vibhishana from his fold by condemning him outright. At that time, the sacred duty of Vibhishana was to give up his brother, who was steeped in adharma. He didn't want to have his association any longer. It is ordained that one should act against even one's own elder who goes on the wrong way without any discrimination of right or wrong. It is really remarkable to note that Vibhishana had that unique strength of mind to make a firm resolve to fight adharma even in the event of confrontation with his own brother. This would not be possible for all. As pointed out earlier, it was Ravana alone who sent him out of his fold, and so it would be wrong to think that Vibhishana forsook Ravana. Ravana describes Vibhishana many times as Shriman and Dharmika. He also knew the virtuous qualities of Vibhishana. Ravana also had realized his fault when it was too late. Now we shall examine whether Vibhishana was right in joining Rama. Vibhishana had no enmity or jealousy against his brother, nor did he covet his kingdom. He did not want to become the ruler of Lanka by killing Ravana. He admired his brother for all his noble qualities, but at the same time he determined to fight against his adharma. He was prepared to give up everything for the sake of dharma. Had he been passive and silent, he would in effect have consented to the adharma of his brother. He had taken away the wife of Sri Ramachandra. That was the great mistake done by Ravana. So, his regard and respect for Ravana was not diminished in any way though he had to fight against him, and this is revealed in his lamentations at the death of Ravana. From the point of view of worldly behavior, what Vibhishana did was the right course of the action. He was indeed in a dilemma. On one hand, he had his affection for his brother. On the other, the practice of dharma, which necessitated to fight actively against adharma. He had to choose one of these two, and he chose to fight adharma by joining hands with Rama. No one except Indrajit, the son of Ravana, found fault with Vibhishana for taking refuge with Rama. When Mandodari, the wife of the queen of Lanka, the wife of Ravana, lamented for the death of Ravana, she made an honorable reference to Vibhishana. She says, "What that brother-in-law of mine, the true worded, said has indeed come to be true." He, addressing his husband, she is telling, "You did not act accordingly to what Vibhishana said reasonably. You did not heed the advice of Maricha, Kumbhakarna, and my father. Though your brother, your well-wisher, said what was good to you, inviting your own death, treated him hard." When Kumbhakarna came across Vibhishana on the battlefield, he asks him not to stand before him, as he could not discriminate a relative from a foe. He congratulates him upon his vow of truth and says that he did well in going to Rama. Even Kumbhakarna is appreciating that. All these references show that Vibhishana was held in high esteem by one and all, and that Vibhishana would have failed in his duty if he had not sought refuge with Rama. Now here, the remarks of Mahatma Gandhi are worth noting. In his book Gita the Mother, he has written, Gandhi has said, "In Vibhishana I find no fault. Vibhishana offered satyagraha against his brother. His example teaches us that it is a travesty of patriotism to sympathize with or try to conceal the faults of one's rulers of country, and to oppose them is the truest service to his country." Now we shall examine this issue from a higher plane of supreme dharma. Vibhishana was one of the few that were aware of the essential nature of Sri Ramchandra. He had that understanding that Sri Rama was the incarnation of the Supreme Paramatman. Being fully convinced of the fact that the Supreme Paramatman himself had come in the form of Rama, Vibhishana realized that it was his duty to surrender unto him alone for saving himself by discarding everything which would be an obstruction to the attainment of Paramatman. Dharma is of two kinds, namely Samanya Dharma and Vishesha Dharma. Samanya means general, Vishesha means particular. Now it is general dharma to be faithful to one's elder brother and other relatives. But following the Paramatman is particular dharma and is inevitable for one's own upward evolution. So long as the general dharma is not an impediment to Vishesha Dharma, it may be followed. But if one would be forced to act against the Divine Lord on account of one's association with someone, it would be proper to break one's ties with such a person forthwith, so that one may not incur the displeasure of the Divine Being. For a true devotee of the Divine Lord, there is no loss greater than the displeasure of the Supreme Divine Being. So it is one's supreme duty to discard all relatives formed on account of one's karma, and to choose the nearest and dearest natural relative, the Divine Lord. The Lord alone is to be sought for gaining one's salvation, and it is this dharma that was adopted by Vibhishana by discarding everything other than that Supreme Paramatman. The Lord has given an assurance that He would Himself look after those who surrendered unto Him. When a person realizes that he and everything of his belongs to the Divine Lord, he hastens to place all that at the feet of the Lord. He throws the burden of his protection on the shoulders of the Lord and heaves a sigh of relief. Why we are all suffering in this life? Because we bear all the burden on our shoulders. But if we surrender, then God will take all the burden. There are many blessed souls that sought refuge with the Divine Lord and got rid of their fear. There are many instances are there. To mention a few, Prahlada, Draupadi and others. A decision to be agreeable to the Divine Lord, a decision also not to be disagreeable to Him, unshakable faith in Him, the awareness of one's utter helplessness, the expression of a prayer to be protected. These are the necessary accessories for offering ourselves at the feet of the Lord for protection. Vibhishana did what was agreeable to the Lord by giving good advice to Ravana. He also desisted from doing anything disagreeable to him by coming away from the fold of Ravana when it was not possible for him to mend him. He showed supreme faith in Rama when he stood unmoving in the sky without any fear, praying for his protection. He did actually pray for protection, shouting at the top of his voice. He says, Raghavam Sharanangataha. He expressed his utter helplessness also by his pitiable voice and offered himself to the Lord by the words, Nivedayata Mam Kshipra. I have offered myself unto you, O Lord. Thus he surrenders himself to Ramachandra. Thus Vibhishana followed the supreme dharma of surrender at the feet of the Lord, and he is only to be praised and emulated. How the Lord reacts when the soul surrenders unto him is depicted by the words and action of Sri Rama when Vibhishana approached him for protection. The behavior of Sri Rama proves beyond doubt how our prayer at the feet of the Lord for forgiving all our transgressions never goes unrewarded. No one may say that he is not the object of divine compassion. The very words, I have surrendered unto you, are going to secure our protection in a miraculous way by moving the heart of the Lord, who is an ocean of mercy. Valmiki describes in a significant manner the way of the Lord when Vibhishana prayed thus for protection and stood in the sky. The monkey chiefs saw him, and they had their own doubts and misgivings about him. They were not ready to accept Vibhishana immediately. Thinking he had come to harm them, they prepared themselves to encounter him. Vibhishana announced in a loud voice, seeking Sugriva and other monkey chiefs. He says, I have sought refuge with Rama, the savior of all this world. Lead me, Vibhishana, who has come unto that Lord without any delay. Please take immediately to Rama. Take me to Rama. Sri Ramachandra asked the opinion of the monkey chiefs about this issue, and each one of them, who was well aware that Rama was the best judge and that he had asked them thus out of regard for them, expressed freely his opinion about the acceptance or otherwise of Vibhishana. Each one came and gave his opinion. Sugriva opined that Vibhishana was a Rakshasa, the brother of their enemy, and it would not be proper to have belief in him. We can't believe the Rakshasas. He said that Vibhishana ought to be punished severely with death. He was not for taking Vibhishana into their fold. Then Angada, another monkey chief, he said, Vibhishana should not be admitted into our fold and taken into our confidence without any trial. He should undergo a trial. If he is found to have good qualities, he may be admitted. Otherwise, he should be rejected. Then another monkey chief, by name Sharabha, he said, let us find out what are the intentions of Vibhishana by sending a clever messenger, well versed in the Shastras. He stated that the Vibhishana was never to be trusted, as he had come from the sinful and inimical Ravana at an improper time and place. Another monkey chief came and proposed that he should be thoroughly examined, and after knowing his intentions, then only we should think of accepting him or not. Finally, came the turn of Hanuman. Hanuman had visited Lanka. He had studied all the different Rakshasas there. He knew who was who. He made a rapid review of the opinions expressed by other monkey chiefs and gave his opinion in the end. He said it was not possible to know his virtues or defects unless he was entrusted with a task, and that could not be done without ascertaining his qualities. It would not at all be proper to send a messenger now to know his mind while he himself was present before them. Hanuman said that Vibhishana had not come at a wrong time at a wrong place. In fact, he has come to a good place, a proper place, where our Lord Ramachandra is there. He had come at the right time to seek refuge with the noble Rama, having disowned his wicked brother. Hanuman further pointed out that there was no room for any suspicion at all, as the facial expression of Vibhishana was calm and pleasing. He said it was quite proper to accept him as he had come to Rama with the intention of getting the kingdom of Lanka. Rama was carefully listening to all these opinions of the monkey chiefs, and then in the end he gave his decision. Some of them had argued that Vibhishana was not to be accepted as he had faults. Anjaneya had said that he had to be accepted as he had only virtues and no faults. Sri Rama said that the ground for accepting or rejecting Vibhishana was not possession of virtues or non-possession of virtues. Sri Rama says, if anyone at any time surrendered unto him, even in the guise of a friend, he would never abandon him. That is Sri Ramchandra. The very words, I have surrendered unto you, would be enough for him to accept him. There might be defects in him, but the wise would never mind them. He need not be even a true friend. If he puts on the show of a friend, even that would merit his protection. At any cost, he would not be given up. There may be only defects in him and no merits at all. 1,000 risks and dangers might ensue the acceptance of such a person. All his associates may be against the acceptance of such a person. But in spite of all these, such a person would be accepted by him as he had surrendered unto him, uttering those words of surrender. The wise would only admire one who would accept such a person who had surrendered. Sri Rama made known his firm determination to accept any one, good or bad, that seeks refuge with him in this way. Let him be anybody. If he comes and surrenders, that's enough. That is the greatest sadhana. Sugriva was a shrewd politician, and he thought over this issue from all possible angles. It would not be good policy to accept one who has defected from his own brother at a time of crisis. Whom else would such person not betray? He may be virtuous or otherwise, which did not matter here. So Sugriva raised this objection against the acceptance of Vibhishana. Sri Ramachandra gave a satisfactory reply to this objection. The relationship between Ravana and Vibhishana is of a different kind from ours. We are not having any desire for their kingdom. Sri Ramachandra said, we don't want Lanka. When a person comes from a different fold with a desire for gaining a position, he must be accepted. He is coming to us, seeking help from us, and we should accept him. Rama pointed out that all brothers were not like Bharata. Sugriva further argued that if Vibhishana is accepted, he may cause harm to Lakshmana or himself, waiting for an opportunity, because we can't believe the Rakshasa mind. Sri Ramachandra was concerned more with the welfare of his followers, and there might be danger to him or his followers if Vibhishana is thus accepted. Sri Ramachandra at this point declared his true nature to Sugriva and others. Thereby the whole world has come to know who actually Sri Rama was. He said, no one is capable of doing any harm to me at any time. Desiring, I can vanquish the demons, yakshas and rakshasas and pishachas by the tip of my finger. Even if all the demons come against me together, I can destroy them in a moment. Three great qualities of Sri Rama came to light on this occasion. Firstly, his omniscience, as pointed out in Ajnanam Nasti Te Kinchit. Secondly, his infinite compassion for those who surrendered unto him. More than this, his omnipotence, that is, Sarva Shaktitva, was revealed by this statement of his. The true nature of Rama as the Supreme Lord was revealed by this episode. Sri Rama himself explained the importance and efficacy of the path of surrender in all its details to Sugriva, justifying his stand to accept Vibhishana, who followed that path. He said that the primary and secondary scriptures as well as virtues, the virtuous practice, what we call sadachara in Sanskrit, proclaimed that a person surrendering ought to be protected even by sacrificing one's own life. Great hazards follow if one doesn't save the person that surrenders. Not only he commits sin by so doing, but he will be the object of calumny in this world. The Vedas says, a person who has surrendered should not be turned back even if he is one to be annihilated. Sri Ramachandra narrated the story of the dove and the hunter to illustrate the fact of sadachara, the convention, the tradition of dharma. An ordinary bird, bereft of any assistance whatsoever, offered itself to be utilized by the hunter, who merely folded his hands to the tree on which it was residing. The hunter actually surrendered to the devata of the tree. He was not meant. He was folding his hands for the bird. That hunter was a sworn enemy of the birds. He was the enemy. Whenever he would see the birds, he would kill them. He had the least repentance for the wild deeds done by him. To such a person, the dove offered all hospitality. It lit a fire for him by bringing faggots, and it also entered into that fire to become food for him. When a bird behaves thus towards the mortal enemy of its very clan, how should a person trained by eminent teachers like Vasishtha and Vishwamitra behave towards one who is approaching for help? Sri Rama made his infallible and true will known to all of his attendants. He said, "To one who surrenders unto me once and pray to me, saying, I belong unto you, that's enough. I shall extend protection to such a one from all beings. This is my vow." Sri Rama tells that. I give protection to all beings that approach me for refuge in this manner. Rama said, it was his vow to give protection to such people. Everyone has that right to seek refuge with the Divine Lord, and the Divine Lord is not discarding anyone who goes to him in that mood. Further, Sri Ramachandra said, I had given him already protection. Bring him to me immediately. He may be Vibhishana, or he may be even Ravana himself. It doesn't matter. When Rama gave out his mind about the acceptance of Vibhishana thus, Sugriva brought him to Rama and then ensured their union. What did Vibhishana say when he met Rama? He introduced himself. "O Ramachandra, I am the brother of Ravana, and I am insulted by him. I am seeking refuge with you, the one refuge for all beings. I have abandoned Lanka. I have abandoned my friends. I have abandoned my wealth, and I have abandoned my everything for your sake. My life, my happiness and kingdom, everything rests in you." Vibhishana was a great devotee, and he discarded everything that was an obstruction for gaining the Lord. He came to be anointed in Ramabhakti Samrajya. Did Vibhishana come there for the sake of the kingdom? Did he aspire? This is to be examined and ascertained from internal evidence. Hanuman said that he had come with the intention of praying for the kingdom. All these statements are to be understood to have been made to show that Vibhishana should be accepted according to the norms of political philosophy. But Vibhishana had come to Rama as a true devotee, discarding everything else. He declared that he would plunge into the thick of the war to defeat the demons. Vibhishana never expressed at all any desire for the kingdom. He never expressed. Then why did Rama anoint him at once? It proves that the Lord is going to shower on his devotee all earthly benefits that are not opposed to dharma and are not obstructions to moksha, liberation. So it was the pleasure of the Lord to bless Vibhishana thus. Then and there, Sri Ramachandra got him anointed as a king of Lanka. By doing so, Sri Rama revealed his supreme nature of a superman, Atimanusha. There is a verse, Atimanusha Stava. It is stated, the ocean was not crossed, the lord of the demons was not conquered. You did not know even his strength and weakness. Even then, without any doubt, you anointed Vibhishana, his younger brother, in his place. How could this happen if you were only an ordinary man? Vibhishana stood by Rama throughout and proved his devotion towards him. He revealed the secrets of the demons and assisted Rama to vanquish them. The Lord was so pleased with Vibhishana, with his one-pointed devotion to him. He gave his family deity, Sri Ranganatha, a deity to be worshipped by Vibhishana himself. Vibhishana's episode in the Ramayana is a unique one which brings to light the supreme nature of the Lord as a savior of all without any distinction of caste, color or creed. It is significant also for this reason, namely, the Lord himself is teaching to humanity the means of prapatti or surrender unto him for attaining him. Even though we may be in difficult circumstances and situations and crises, but if we just surrender, go to the chapel, stand in front of the deity and honestly pray to him, what all he had done should be forgiven and that he should be able to surrender in all sincerity. God will certainly uplift him and he will give all protection and save him from all situations. Thank you all.